Well, the murder of a software developer in Jackson Beach, Florida, shocked the local community and it drew significant media attention. This father of four was shot and killed in February of 2022 under really mysterious circumstances, an ambush. The investigation has unveiled a complex web of relationships, custody disputes, and alleged conspiracies. Who killed Jared Bridegan? Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Profiling Evil. Please make sure you're sharing us with your friends and contacts. And hey, hit the like and subscribe button. Now, Jared Bridegan's murder gripped the true crime community across the United States, perhaps even around the world, because I know I've heard from people from all over the world about this case. It's described as a murder for hire plot. And it happened when Bridegan was gunned down after dropping off his two oldest children at his ex-wife's home. Now, it happened around 7:45 p.m. on the evening of February 16th, 2022. He just dropped off his kids. His other daughter, a daughter from his new marriage, was in the back seat of his car behind him. This little tyke was 2 years old at the time. As he drove away from his ex-wife's home along a narrow, kind of dimly lit road, he came across a tire that was blocking the road. Jared stopped his vehicle and he climbed out to move the tire out of the way. And before he reached it, he was ambushed, shot multiple times. Jared Bridegan died on the street with his 2-year-old child looking on. Now, the investigation involved law enforcement agencies from local, county, state, and national agencies, and they quickly determined that Jared's death was a targeted murder. In fact, almost immediately, investigators started combing the neighborhood and they discovered witnesses who said they saw a blue truck backing up and driving away quickly after the shots rang out. The investigation also uncovered the fact that Bridegan and his ex-wife Shanna Gardner were having a lot of custody and post-marriage conflict issues. Now, Gardner and her new husband, a guy named Mario Fernandez Saldana, were people the police were really interested in this case. Jared Bridegan was described by those who knew him as a man of faith. He met his ex-wife, a woman from Utah, and they married. Now, one of their children had a health issue, and that required that the couple moved to Florida, where the climate was a lot better for the child. They fell apart, the marriage dissolved, and Jared remarried. His current wife said Jared was a great dad.
And you talk about the victim, Mike King, and we're looking at pictures of Jared Bridegan. Obviously ready, willing, and able to do whatever he needs to do for his family. I mean, that's every indication, every conversation, all the research that I've done in this case always points in that direction. And they moved to Florida because one of the twins had a medical issue and had to be in a specific type of environment. So packed up, everything, moved down to Jacksonville, and that's where they ended up. To me, that's the other part of the tragedy here, is the children, Mike, and how that works into the whole case here.
And we have to keep them in mind. And you go back and you think about some of the behavior that's happened here. He isn't killed going to return the child home that he's taken out to dinner. He's killed when he has a child that's not hers, which also makes this a little bit intriguing. The other thing I think about a lot is that the fact that when we examine these cases and we look at behavior and the changes that occur in behavior, his behavior remains pretty consistent through the whole thing. His lifestyle is the same. His religion, it's hers that changes, and that always causes me concern.
Absolutely.
Well, the investigation into Jared's death moved rather slowly by all accounts, and after several months, investigators turned their attention to Jared's ex-wife and her second husband, Fernandez. The 2 months turned into 6 months, and police had very little to say about the unsolved murder. And this is one of those times when it is so frustrating for everyone involved, but especially the family and Jared's new wife who was left behind. Now, behind the scenes, police were preparing to take a man named Henry Tenon into custody. And that actually happened in August of 22 when he was charged with possession of a weapon by a felon and driving with a suspended and revoked license. Now, neither of these had anything to do with Jared Bridegan's death. But follow-up interviews with Tenon's roommate led to the discovery of 2 important clues. First, it led investigators to this idea that Tenon actually was leasing a home from Bridegan's ex-wife's second husband, Fernandez. Now, when cops checked their home, they found there was a tire there that looked a lot like the tire recovered from the roadway where Jared was murdered. That was huge. And of course, having him tied to Bridegan's ex-wife was huge. Now, when the tire was forensically examined and compared with the tire that was recovered at the murder scene, investigators discovered that they matched. A police report actually documented this discovery, saying, quote, "On Tuesday, July 19th, 2022, Detective Lamont and I, the investigator speaking, went to the property room and compared the 2 tires, noting that both the DOT numbers, along with the date of manufacture, which tells you the label and when the day the tire was manufactured, all happened in the 47th week of 2018. They said both tires appeared to match each other," close quote. Well, by January of 2023, investigators had enough evidence to formally charge Tenon with the murder of Jared Bridegan, knowing that Tenon likely didn't act alone in the murderous act, that he was the gunman. But investigators kept looking deeper. Tenon was actually cooperating with the investigation, and the police soon arrested Fernandez, charging him also with first-degree murder, solicitation to commit a capital felony, and with child abuse. I'm so glad they added that child abuse, that little tyke in the back seat watching. When Henry Tenon pleaded guilty to second-degree murder of Jared Bridegan, he admitted to firing the fatal shots. But then things started really coming into view. The prosecution remarked that Tenon's cooperation had not only corroborated evidence collected during their investigation, but he provided additional evidence against Mario Fernandez Saldana in regard to Saldana Fernandez, I keep calling him, participation in the conspiracy. Well, I spoke about this case on Court TV and about the organized nature of the crime. I focused my comments on the fact that Jared Bridegan always drove toward his ex-wife's house in the same way each week. Once he dropped off his children, he left the same way every single week. He created this perfect pattern of behavior that a predator could capitalize upon and set up a trap to kill him.
Retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, and author of the book Deceived, Mike King is with us. Looking at, and again, they're getting the story from Henry Tenon, right? And they're developing it from some other evidence as well. But it sort of makes sense to me, Mike, the story that's being told on how they could pull this off, because it's a repeated pattern for 8 months. They know where he's going to be. They know which way he's driving. They know which way he's driving out.
Yeah, you know, we always talk about this idea that past behavior is predictive of future behavior. Every single time Jared dropped those kids off, he drove that same one-way street. So it's not a two-way street, Vinny. It's a one-way street, a one-lane street, and it creates a perfect opportunity to create that guise of something in the roadway, a tire in this particular case, blocking it, forcing him to stop and get out. And it doesn't make sense to me that the killer in this case was galumping along and happened to be at that very place at that very moment in time, especially with his relationship with people tied more intimately to Jared Bridegan.
Well, in addition to Tenon's testimony, investigators were able to recreate a forensic financial trail of payments from Gardner and her husband Fernandez and to Tenon. Now, this included payments to his, again, keep in mind, this is his renter, in excess of $10,000. Now, according to the Fernandez arrest warrant, 3 handwritten checks from Fernandez to Tenon were obtained by authorities in October of 2022. And phone records show that at least 35 of those phone contacts between the two occurred in February of 2022.
Who are the title holders or principals on these articles of organization?
Both Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez are listed as managing members, or which would be considered owners of the LLC.
And the LLC is First Choice Home Rentals. What was the business of this LLC as incorporated?
The business was established to manage their rental property holdings.
This document is an annual report. What does that mean?
This is just a document that's filed every year to basically let the state know that this is still an active company, and then to make any changes to the ownership or management of the company.
And this was filed in the upper right-hand corner, January 28th, 2022, which was a few weeks before the murder of Jared Bridegan. And again, at the bottom, who are the still owners or signatories on this LLC?
The listed owners are Shanna Gardner and Mark Fernandez.
And this is another exhibit on, or another page on Composite Exhibit 3, again showing that the First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting, what appears to be monthly transfers from the Shanna Gardner Irrevocable Trust.
This check is on April 6th for $5,000 written to Henry Tenon from First Choice Home Rentals.
And in the subject line, it says, Kickstarter, good luck. Can you describe for the court, based on your conversations with Mr. Tenon, what this check was actually for?
Mr. Tenon stated this was the first of many payments that was supposed to be an investment into his pallet company, which was actually payment for the homicide.
Okay, so we're looking at this LLC they set up. Shanna is obviously funding it with her trust fund money, and that's how the payments are being made. Mike, what do you think about this connection to get Shanna into this plot?
I like this. They're showing the income coming from the irrevocable trust that her family has set up, but then they're showing it come into this joint account, then going out and paying the shooter. And unless that shooter's established a business that required 10 grand to get started, that's going to be a really tall mountain for them to climb as far as why were they giving him that kind of money. The relationship wasn't them paying him. It should have been him paying for a place to live.
Hey everybody, look who I'm hanging out with. And listen, I'm not attending choir practice, but I just wanted to tell you that you need to be watching Profiling Evil YouTube. Don't miss it. I'm telling you, there's something there for you every single time. I never miss. You shouldn't either.
And now, police and prosecutors have Bridegan's ex-wife, Shanna Gardner, in their sights. She was also taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation to commit a capital felony, and child abuse. But things are dramatically different for her because the state has indicated they're seeking the death penalty for Gardner and her husband, Fernandez. So if they're found guilty, they're facing the death penalty. Well, it looks to me like all the rats on this ship are starting to turn against each other. Tenon will likely spend the rest of his life in prison, but Fernandez and Gardner might be executed for this crime.
3 defendants here. One has admitted everything, so it seems predictable when this moves forward how it's going to play out from the defendant's perspective. There's going to be some finger pointing going on here. So how do you see that issue in trying to make this is a conspiracy among 3 people versus like, 2 people or 1 person acting alone?
Yeah, I mean, he's still got a murder rap on him, and he's still going to spend the rest of his life likely in prison. So what does he really have to gain outside of the death penalty, which certainly would be motivation, I guess, to try to talk about things. But the thing that's going to happen here, in my opinion, Vinny, is he's going to become the linchpin. He's going to be the one that's going to be able to decipher what it means to say funeral potatoes or casserole or jumpstart for your new business. Those kinds of things he's going to be able to talk to. We also know that they're probably going to release more information in the coming days. Have they forensically been able to uncover some things that are going to say exactly this person, because of this comment, is tied to this outcome? Again, I think the financial money train is going to, the trail is going to really paint a picture. He's going to be able to glue all the parts together. And then it's going to be up to a jury whether they believe him. But prosecutors use criminals every single day to twist and turn and go against other bad guys. And what we're after is the ultimate conspirators in this case.
Yeah, and this is a death penalty case. So
Yeah.
everything is at stake here. There is a lot at stake.
Well, like you, I'm going to be watching this one closely, and I'll be hoping that Jared Bridegan, his new wife, and his 4 children get the justice that they deserve. I do think it's pretty amazing that Jared's surviving wife continues to work on his legacy. Security lights have now been installed along that section of roadway where he was murdered, and the homeowners association in that community is working on a memorial tree as well. In addition to that, they have the Bridegan Foundation. It was established to focus on providing Bexley boxes. That's the name of that little 2-year-old that witnessed her father's murder. Bexley boxes are distributed to police departments and sheriff's offices across the country. They're filled with comfort items for children who are going through traumatic events. Again, something that stemmed from what Jared's little daughter Bexley experienced on the night of his murder. So in summary, the players in this big trial coming up are going to be, number one, the victim in this case, and most importantly, the victim. 33-year-old Jared Bridegan, a 33-year-old software developer who was shot and killed in Jacksonville Beach, Florida in February of 2022. The next victim, besides his children, which are obvious, is Jared Bridegan's new widowed wife, who's been vocal in seeking justice for her husband's murder. But then we start focusing on the people that are charged with his murder. First, his ex-wife, Shanna Gardner-Fernandez. This is Jared Bridegan's ex-wife, with whom he had ongoing custody disputes. She was a person of interest from the beginning and now is charged with capital murder. Alongside her, charged with capital murder, are her second husband, Mario Fernandez Saldana. So Gardner and her husband, again, face capital murder charges in this case. Number 3 is Henry Tenon. He's already been convicted. He is the shooter. He was arrested and charged and convicted of murder and is sitting in jail today, or in prison today for this, and will testify against the other 2. Law enforcement and legal authorities, including the Jacksonville Beach Police Department, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the prosecution, everyone else will continue to do their part in this murder investigation. A murder which has been a complex and deeply troubling case involving multiple suspects and a web of personal and legal conflicts. The investigation and subsequent court proceedings have aimed to uncover the truth and deliver justice for Jared Bridegan and his family. So as the trials for Maria Fernandez Saldana and Shanna Gardner-Fernandez approach, the legal battle continues, with the community and Jared's loved ones closely watching the developments. This case serves as a stark reminder to me of the far-reaching consequences of personal animosity and the importance of the diligence by police and a thorough judicial process in bringing these cases to resolution. I'd really like to know your thoughts on this case, folks, and I hope that you'll put them down below, and I hope that you'll be watching this one as it goes to trial. I want to thank you for supporting Profiling Evil and remind you that you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you like audio podcasts, please make sure you're checking out Profiling Evil podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. Now listen, if you'd like to donate to our efforts at Profiling Evil, you can do so at our website, profilingevil.com. There you'll see a donate button. You'll also see a place where you can sign up for our digital newsletter, the BOLO. That stands for Be on the Lookout. And the only way you're going to get those notifications is if you've signed up for them. Don't need any other information from you other than your email. And please, while you're checking out our website, make sure you look at our story maps and our missing persons and unsolved murders crowdsource map. It's a place where you can look at cases in your own community, and if they're not showing up on my map, upload them and get them on. It's a place where family members can also share victimology or a little information about the victim in their particular cases. I hope you'll consider uploading cases from your community, and please share it with your friends, and please like Profiling Evil. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.